In other videos, I've talked about how the small intestine and stomach function, but I didn't go over regulation of the activities of the stomach and small intestine. And that's because I wanted to finish talking about both of those organs before we talked about the regulation, because the regulation of one plays a role with the regulation of the other. Both the small intestine and stomach are regulated by both the nervous system and endocrine system, so hormones. Both systems are stimulated by changes in mechanics, chemicals, or water concentration. We have mechanoreceptors, chemoreceptors, and osmoreceptors that are located embedded in the stomach and the small intestine, and each of these can detect something different. Mechanoreceptors, for example, can sense when the presence of food has caused the stomach to expand. So that expansion is a mechanical movement that activates these receptors. Chemoreceptors can sense whether food particles have been sufficiently broken down into a particular chemical form. For example, breaking down proteins into individual amino acids. Another example of a chemoreceptor is a chemoreceptor that can sense the types of nutrients in food, so detecting carbohydrates as opposed to amino acids. Osmoreceptors, of course, are going to be involved with osmosis. They basically can sense how much liquid is present, so they can sort of detect the water to solute ratio kind of thing. Stimulation of these different receptors is going to either stimulate the nervous system reflexes that are going to further a process happening in the stomach or small intestine, or stop a process happening in the stomach or small intestine. Or the stimulation can activate the endocrine system, where the stimulation causes the release of hormones that will either further the process happening in the stomach or small intestine, or stop the process that's happening in the stomach or small intestine. And actually, a receptor can activate both of these systems. The nervous system does help to regulate stomach and small intestinal activity. The control center for this is located in the brainstem in the medulla oblongata. This is autonomic in nature, meaning involuntary. And of course, the autonomic nervous system has two divisions, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic division is like a parachute. It slows down most body activities except digestion. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight emergency mode, and that increases most body activities except digestion. Long story short, the parasympathetic division is going to increase activities in the stomach and small intestine. So with the parasympathetic division, we're going to increase activity in the small intestines and stomach. This might come in the form of more signaling going to that muscularis externa, causing more mixing type motions in the stomach, or an increase in the rate of peristalsis in the small intestine. This parasympathetic signaling could also cause more secretions to be made to help these organs along. For example, the stomach might make more gastric juice under parasympathetic regulation. And perhaps we'll have more pancreatic juice and more gallbladder contraction and that sort of thing in the small intestine. With the sympathetic division, we're going to be decreasing activity. So this means we're going to be decreasing contractions of the muscularis externa, or decreasing the release of various enzymes and things like that. Before we leave the topic of nervous system regulation of the stomach and small intestine, I want to talk about serotonin. Most of us know serotonin is a neurotransmitter that's really important in the brain, and it definitely is. But many of us don't know that over 90% of the serotonin that's made in your body is actually made and used in the digestive tract. Altered levels of serotonin at the digestive tract level have been linked to diseases like irritable bowel syndrome. There's also a clinical application here. Depression, anxiety, and other behavioral health issues are treated with SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. These particular drugs, like Prozac, Xanax, for example, They help to increase the amounts of serotonin in the brain. And what they think is happening here is that the more serotonin that's available in the brain, then the less depression, less anxiety, better control of OCD, that sort of thing can happen. However, these SSRIs do have an effect on the digestive tract because there's serotonin in the digestive tract. So when someone first starts to use an SSRI, it's usually tapered very slowly. So we'll start off with a small dose and check to make sure there aren't any major problems with the digestive system. And then the dose can be increased for a little bit, and then wait, watch, make sure the digestive system is tolerating it well, and then you can continue to taper it up. But yeah, there can definitely be major digestive system problems with SSRIs.